What if I told you that the most effective dictators in history didn't actually take away their citizens' freedom? Like, they engineered a psychological environment where people just willingly handed it over.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds totally counterintuitive, but when you look at the actual mechanics of total control, physical force is really only half the equation. The real conquest, it happens in the mind.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. So today we're exploring a historical script that analyzes the dark psychology behind totalitarianism. Our mission here is to understand exactly how these post-World War I regimes manipulated human nature.
Right, to build states that demanded absolute, unquestioning obedience from you, the citizen.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this, maybe starting with how you manufacture a crisis.
Yeah, Mussolini is really the perfect case study for this. What's fascinating here is that his early fascist movement, it didn't just sweep into power on some wave of popular policy.
Right, they didn't have a mandate.
Not at all. They utilized strategic, street-level violence. His black shirts were out there actively beating up political rivals, union members, basically intentionally creating widespread public chaos.
It's the classic mob racketeer tactic, right? Like, you throw a brick through a shop window on Tuesday just so you can walk in on Wednesday and sell the owner protection from window breakers. I mean, Mussolini manufactured the exact instability that he then promised to cure.
Yeah, he understood a very dark psychological truth.
Yeah.
If you introduce enough visceral fear into a society, people will literally crave authority.
Right.
They will happily trade their individual liberty for just the mere illusion of order.
The fear alone is, well, it's exhausting. I mean, Mussolini proved fear makes people crave authority. But to rely solely on fear means you need constant enforcement.
You need guards everywhere, yeah.
Right, so to make control self-sustaining, you have to systematically break a person's underlying sense of independence. And that brings us to the psychological mechanism we see with Stalin.
Right, the shift from managing behavior to actually destroying autonomy. So Stalin's collectivization of agriculture, the source usually frames this historically as an industrialization effort.
Right, forcing peasants onto massive state-run farms to feed this growing Soviet machine.
Yeah, exactly.
But I actually have to push back on the source material's framing here. Like, the script treats this as just a brutal economic policy. But Stalin specifically targeted the kulaks.
Right, the most prosperous farmers, yeah.
Right, the successful ones. He hit them with absolute crushing force. Destroying your most productive agricultural workers seems entirely counterproductive to actual efficiency. So was industrialization really the primary goal here?
Well, it was incredibly counterproductive economically, but I think you're missing Stalin's actual math here. He was perfectly willing to trade agricultural output for absolute political obedience.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, a successful, independent farmer doesn't need the state. Therefore, that independence is a threat. It wasn't about farming at all. It was about ensuring the state was the only entity that mattered to your survival.
So if Stalin crushed the individual's independence by eliminating their ability to survive on their own, I guess the next evolution is getting people to surrender their own minds.
Which is exactly where we see the synthesis of these methods under Hitler. He didn't just use fear or economic dependence, he really mastered the psychology of the crowd.
Here's where it gets really interesting. He took a fringe party of, maybe 6,000 members, and within about a decade, turned it into the largest party in the Reichstag.
Yeah, massive, unprecedented growth.
And the source attributes this explosive growth to, quote, weaponized grievance. How does that actually work in the brain?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, weaponized grievance is an incredibly potent psychological release valve. It takes a legitimate collective pain, like a crushed post-war economy.
Or a loss of natural pride.
Exactly. And it funnels all that complex trauma toward a hyper-specific scapegoat.
So it offers the citizen psychological relief. It essentially says, your suffering isn't your fault, it's theirs.
Precisely. It weaponizes that human need for a simple narrative. And once you've directed that collective anger, you position yourself as the only weapon capable of striking back.
You build a cult of personality not on hope, but on shared hatred.
Yeah, absolutely.
But once you achieve that level of control, how do you maintain such an unnatural grip on reality? The source points to propaganda. But let's be real, propaganda isn't just lying.
No, it's really about sensory overload.
Like a malicious software update.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. It is creating an environment so densely saturated with a single relentless narrative that the citizen simply loses the cognitive energy to maintain a separate reality.
It's like being trapped in a room where a deafening alarm is constantly ringing. Eventually, you stop trying to have a conversation and just cover your ears.
Right, propaganda works by exhausting the brain's defense mechanisms until you just accept the noise as normal. They didn't just conquer territories, they conquered human perception.
So what does this all mean for you? It means totalitarianism isn't just about military might or historical dates. It is a highly calculated psychological machine built on fear, the erasure of autonomy, and weaponized grievance.
It's a system of total mental control.
Right, which leaves me with this final thought. If these regimes could successfully conquer millions of minds almost a century ago using nothing but printing presses and radio towers, how much more vulnerable might human psychology be to manipulation in today's era of personalized algorithmic media? When the machine starts feeling us exactly what makes us angry, whose gears are we really turning?